Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is the 13th entry of the series, released back in 2016 and developed by Infinity Ward. From the moment this game was announced, there was heavy negative pushback from the fanbase to the point where the announcement trailer alone became the second most disliked YouTube video on the site at that time. The reason for this will echo the focus of this entire retrospective, which is that the Call of Duty fanbase, which clearly consists of a mainstream casual bottom-of-the-barrel audience, only considers Call of Duty to be relevant when the franchise explores settings that have been beaten to death, whether it's World War II, the Cold War, the War on Terror, or anything related to the time period of the early 1940s through the modern day as we know it. In other words, to put it simply, people were upset literally because they didn't like the string of futuristic settings that the series was exploring at the time, and they decided to take their frustrations out on this game. Now, in a way, I understand it. Black Ops 3 was below average in quality, and this game goes even further at introducing things that the fanbase clearly wasn't used to. But the controversy surrounding this game's announcement and subsequent treatment after it released to market astounds me to this day. There's also the issue that the special editions of Infinite Warfare withheld remastered versions of 2007's Modern Warfare, which in hindsight was a terrible business move on the behalf of Activision, but that's neither here nor there. After playing through Infinite Warfare on veteran difficulty and having completed every mission in the campaign, I can humbly say that this is one of the best Call of Duty campaigns across the entire series. Easily top 10. Easily. You can say what you want about the zombies mode or the yearly multiplayer shtick that Call of Duty continues to churn out, but my focus is not on that. There are people who genuinely care about the single-player content in these games, which is why Black Ops 4 got the pushback it received 2 years following this game, because that game didn't have a campaign at all. This game has a campaign, and it's a damn good one, even if the story doesn't quite live up to expectation. That's my commentary about the controversy of this game's announcement, so I'm going to shift into the game itself, starting with the narrative. Infinite Warfare takes place in the year 2187. In this distant future setting, Earth has been deprived of its natural resources due to population growth and industrial expansion. As a result of this, multiple nations around the globe get together and form the United Nations Space Alliance, or UNSA, which handles everything related to colonization in space for humanity. Basically, Earth's population now relies on colonies established in the solar system to mine planets and asteroids for resources. Of course, these colonies become the target of radical militants who make strides to take control of them, which places great strain on the UNSA. So the Solar Associated Treaty Organization, or SATO, which is a military structure that defends Earth and the UNSA, is formed. A new government called the Settlement Defense Front, or SDF, emerges as a hostile totalitarian force consisting of former UNSA colonies that had seceded during a previous war which ended in a stalemate. In the years following, relations have deteriorated, placing the solar system on the edge of yet another war. You play as Nick Reyes, commander and captain of the UNSA warship known as Retribution, and special operations pilot of the Special Combat Air Recon, or SCAR. Reyes and his crew are tasked with hunting down and destroying the SDF both on Earth as well as outer space across many planets in the solar system using fighter crafts known as Jackals. So that's the setup, and this game of course is filled with numerous celebrity cameos, something that started largely with Advanced Warfare, and has only gotten worse as this franchise has dragged on. They have Conor McGregor in here for some strange reason, Lewis Hamilton, Kit Harington plays the villain in this. It's a bit ridiculous and silly, but ignoring all of that, the problem with this story is that none of the characters are remotely interesting despite all of the celebrities they throw in here. I didn't really care about anyone in this game, whether you're talking about the captain, any of his crew, or Jon Snow. I just didn't give a shit. The game is lazy in explaining its setup, which is overlong and too complicated for its own good, especially when it comes to the premise, And the payoff by the end is that there is none. It's my belief that this game would have worked better if it was tied to one of the previous games that came before this, which the only one that sort of fits is Advanced Warfare. Had they framed this as a sequel to that, I think this would have performed better on the market, but instead, Infinite Warfare marks the third attempt in just 3 years that these Call of Duty development studios have tried to push a new sub-series, but with diminishing results with each attempt. Even though Advanced Warfare didn't sell as much as Ghost did in 2013, it wasn't dreadfully far below the sales performance of Ghost. They could have easily made this a sequel to that game, and since Advanced Warfare was already a known label, a direct follow-up to that would have made this game more digestible to the more vocal majority of the fan base, but that didn't happen, and this game clearly was worse off for it. With that said, the game itself, which includes the boots-on-ground gameplay and the dogfighting stuff to complement it, is actually really good in this. There was a lot of thought put into how this game was to be presented to the player. It's essentially the Call of Duty equivalent of a Star Trek game. You're the captain of your own ship with your own crew and your own personal quarters. You select a mission from this advanced hologram projector, after which you choose a loadout, enter your ship in real time, and take off into outer space. That's the general cycle of the gameplay loop. The game does a fantastic job of making you feel like you have your own space, where you're the authority figure. Not only that, but both the boots-on-ground gameplay and the Jackal stuff are handled appropriately. On the ground, you have access to a grappling hook, which can also be used in outer space for easier navigation. You have new equipment, from which the most creative ideas comes from the grenades. The grenade types include anti-gravity variants, electric shock types, and Seeker's Spider-Bot explosives that trap targets across the room that you can see through walls. Very useful on veteran difficulty and a personal favorite of mine. Older mechanics from both Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3 returns with wall running, double jumps, and dashing. There are the zero-gravity segments, which are interesting, but I felt these segments were diminished in quality thanks to the controls. It's the only aspect of the game that I thought could have used some improvement, to say the least. On veteran difficulty, these sections were extremely frustrating, mainly due to the lack of proper cover and limited range of movement. However, one aspect that absolutely needed to work that was pulled off to perfection is the ship gameplay with the Jackal. The Jackal is easily my favorite addition to Infinite Warfare. The ship gameplay is not on rails. You can move freely with it 360 degrees in a 3D space. You can boost or slow it down to catch targets easier. There's 2 different modes with hover and flight that can be manually activated. The player can release flares to defend against enemy fire from the rear, and call in resupply drones to stock up on ammunition in real time. The controls and general gameplay for the Jackal are precise, fluid, and responsive. Overall, the Jackal is one of the best elements in the entire game. There's also special enemies found throughout the game, known as Most Wanted bounties. These bounties consist of 30 target officers, commanders, and pilots. The system this reminded me the most of was Assassin's Creed Odyssey's Cult of Cosmos, which was pretty much the exact same thing. Hunting down these targets added some valuable content to the campaign. As you complete various quests, you unlock cosmetic and other customization items, including upgrades for the Jackal and special weapons if you beat the game on the ridiculous specialist and YOLO difficulty settings. These rewards feel more structured and substantially important than how they were presented in Black Ops 3. The only criticism I have against this is that they're locked behind once again, the ridiculous specialists and YOLO difficulty settings, which have problems on their own, from a design standpoint. Finally, the mission structure here is good throughout the game, but the ones that stand out in particular would be Operation Deep Execute, Operation Dark Quarry, which involves a mining facility whose operational boundary is right next to the sun. Operation Trace Kill involves a dogfight in space right outside the sun in an asteroid field. And Operation Black Flag has arguably the best level design for boots on ground in the entire game. Between the varied boots on ground combat, to the Jackal missions, to the new and returning gameplay mechanics, and the general challenge and content variety, Infinite Warfare's campaign does not disappoint. This game is a simple case of being the right product released at the wrong time. I can't say I'm confident that a more futuristic setting wouldn't be attempted again in this franchise, but at this time, I'd say that it's not a likely possibility, and that's a significant loss for both the Call of Duty IP and its fan base at large.
Let's get in. Scar 2, hold this perimeter, engage.